Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. There's a lot of ways to analyze the price of an asset like silver. You can look at charts, you can do technical analysis, you can look at relative valuations to other assets, you can look at the price in various fiat currencies, but a really important factor that I think often gets overlooked is the sentiment of the public, because psychology ultimately drives the price action in most markets. It's basically what price is someone willing to sell at and what price is someone willing to buy at. And all of that has to do with the psychology of the participants in the market. Now, silver is admittedly a very small and potentially highly manipulated market, so you got to factor that in as well. But still, human psychology does play a very important role in the price of the metal. And the reason I bring this up is because I think this could be an important indicator that silver is, if not at a bottom, at least near a bottom. And I say this because on the interwebs, on Reddit, on the comments of this channel's videos, I have noticed an unprecedented negative sentiment towards silver following the pullback that we have seen in recent weeks. I mean, I've been having people go on old videos that I made 6 months or a year ago and leave comments to the extent of, oh, this didn't age well, did it? I mean, basically trolling me. And it doesn't bother me at all. It just comes with the territory of running a YouTube channel. But it is noticeable that there is this marked increase in negative sentiment. And that's actually a very bullish thing for silver, believe it or not, because it is when sentiment regarding an asset has absolutely bottomed and the asset is most unloved and most hated. That's when you want to acquire it, because that's when everybody is selling it cheap. And it's not just trolls. I mean, I have seen seasoned stackers, people who I know are stacking. I mean, they tell me in the comments, people who have been watching for a while, and now they're saying they're disgusted with the metal and they wish they hadn't bought it. And the fact that stackers are actually considering liquidating their holdings is a really clear sign that we are near a bottom. And I say near because, the paper price could always fall further. Price of physical could always fall. It's very hard to predict short-term movements in the price of metals. And, I know a lot of people out there, at least in the comments on these videos, they knew that silver was going to fall. They say, oh, well, I knew this was going to happen. I've been calling for this. And, if you know what's going to happen in the short term in a market, well, I guess you're getting rich, because, if I knew the price of silver was going to fall, well, I'd just go buy a bunch of short-term put options and use a bunch of leverage and enrich myself from that price movement. But the fact is, I have no idea, and most of these people have no idea either. It's very easy after the price of an asset falls to come in and say, well, I saw this coming. Because if you actually did see it coming and you actually did know, I'm assuming you made a large profit from it. But that's probably not the case, because, in hindsight, it's very easy to point out, if a call was wrong or a call was right. And it's not like I've been calling for silver to move up in the short term. Primarily, what I've focused on this channel is pointing out that silver is undervalued and that there's a lot of fundamental reasons to be getting your hands on physical, tangible money and out of fiat currency. And I think that all of those factors remain intact. All of those fundamentals remain true. I mean, we've still got all the tremendous levels of debt. We still have all the tremendous levels of fiat currency created. We still have the trade deficits. We still have the spending budget deficits. All this stuff remains in effect. The fact that the price of silver has dropped just indicates that it's even more undervalued than it was in the past. So that's why I'm still stacking at today's prices. I'm not going all in, because the price could drop more, but I'm just going to keep dollar cost averaging, keep accumulating metal, keep trading Federal Reserve notes for physical metal, because, like I said, none of the fundamental factors that indicate that silver ultimately is going to perform well have changed. And, if the market is treating silver irrationally, or if it's being manipulated, whatever the reason is for silver to be undervalued, I like to accumulate undervalued assets. I think that's the way to go, especially if you have a very long-term outlook. As far as my sentiment goes, I'm not even considering selling silver. I think anybody who is selling silver at these levels, who's a stacker, who's actually selling physical metal and it's not just paper contracts being sold, Unfortunately, those are the weak hands who have to get shaken out before the metals hit a bottom. And I hope that none of you are selling your physical metal at these prices. I mean, if you have to, you have to, but that's a good reason to keep some fiat currency on hand and to always have an emergency fund, etc. So you're never forced into selling your silver. And, it's a good reason not to use leverage, because if you're using leverage, then you can get forced into liquidating positions as well when you'd prefer to be buying. And, when you look at things like the latest commitment of traders chart that we just got on Friday, you can see that the long speculative positions have almost completely evaporated. I mean, they're almost non-existent at this point. And one, that tells you that sentiment is at a record low. I mean, these long positions on the COMEX are at the lowest levels that we've seen in years. And also it tells you that there's not that many people left to sell. So I'm continuing to accumulate metals. I know the price could drop more from here. Again, short-term calls, not really my forte. If I thought that the price of metal was guaranteed to drop, again, if you know for sure where the price is moving, you can always use a bunch of leverage and make yourself rich. But I prefer to just take the long view, acknowledge that I have no idea where the price is going in the short term, but there is blood in the street, and silver is extremely undervalued relative to other assets. I mean, the gold to silver ratio right now is over 91. And historically, to find periods of time where the gold to silver ratio is over 90 and you can buy silver that cheap relative to gold, it's extremely uncommon. I mean, I know that it could go higher. Back in March of 2020, we saw it go up to about 120. So there is still some room for silver to drop again in the short term. But the gold to silver ratio in the past, it has never hung around above the 90 level for very long. And so I do think that even though the price of silver could drop in the near term, could drop a little bit more, that will simply be an opportunity to accumulate even more metal, assuming that the price of physical drops, because of course, the price of paper silver has been dropping, but with the premium situation, premiums, everybody calls them premiums, it's really just the real price of physical metal. The real price of physical metal has held up a lot better than the paper price. And so let me know what you think. Have you noticed any difference in the psychology or the sentiment regarding silver? Bring it up with some people in everyday conversation. See how many people out there are stacking, because, one of the nice things about a pullback like this, it gives you an opportunity to take even a small position in precious metals, relatively small, a small fraction of all of your assets, if you put it into precious metals, that will put you into the minority of people holding real, physical, tangible assets. I mean, what portion of the population do you think really has any significant level of precious metals at all? It's not very much. And when the reality of the monetary system and the reality of the unpayable debts and the reality of the raging inflation really strikes home, and the reality of the Fed's inability to control inflation, then I think physical metals are going to become a lot more prominent in the public psychology. And I think sentiment around them is going to change in a drastic way. But at that point, it'll be too late to get on board, because the price will be much higher. And none of this is financial advice. I'm not telling you what to do. Everybody's situation is different. You got to do your own due diligence. But I view the current price in silvers and the current sentiment as being indicative of a tremendous opportunity. So thank you all very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you next time. Smart Silver Stacker, out.